Hello again, welcome to another episode of the Bourbon Brothers. My name's Gavin.
And I'm Jeff.
And we have a nice special review for you today. We're going to be looking at Four Roses Limited Edition 2013 release small batch.
This is also marks their 125th anniversary edition, and it's a special treat with this fall release.
Yeah, it's a 51.6% alcohol, and like Jeff said, it's an annual release, and we picked it up for $89.
Yeah, so Four Roses is a distillery that's been around for 125 years, obviously, but they have a little bit of an interesting background. They were very popular in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and then they were bought out by Seagram's. Seagram's then turned it into an international bourbon and didn't really produce it domestically, so it sort of had died out in people's minds. They weren't able to get it, and starting in the early 90s, after Seagram's went bankrupt, it was bought by a Japanese company, Kirin Brewing, and since then it's started to really make a comeback in America. It's a distillery that's won a lot of awards, critical acclaim from the bourbon industry, especially in the last 3 or 4 years. And we're really excited to review this limited release bourbon today.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at the color.
So when you're again, you want to hold it up to the light. You sort of get some light amber,
a little caramel in there.
Caramel color.
Dark color.
It's a clear liquid, which is always a good thing when you're looking at bourbon. You don't want it to be opaque. So it's got a good look to it.
Certainly. All right, let's get some nose in.
So you definitely, I think, get some sweet corn, maybe a touch of oak in there as well.
Yeah, certainly some black pepper. Four Roses uses a high rye content. This particular batch has a 18-year and 2 13-year recipes.
Yeah, and that gets into one thing that's sort of interesting with Four Roses is they have 10 different batches of bourbon.
Yeah.
They have mash bills, and it's broken down into a letter sequence. And so there's four letters. The first one is O, which just means it was distilled by Four Roses. Then there's the E mash bill and the B mash bill. The E is 75% corn, 20% rye, 5% barley. Whereas the B is 60% corn, 35% rye, and 5% barley. So there's a high rye and a low rye. Then the S just means it's a straight whiskey distillation. And then finally there's 5 yeast strands. They do 5 with the high rye and 5 with the higher corn mash bill, and you get 10 full recipes. So this is utilizing 3 of those at different ages.
All right, so let's get ahead and do some tasting. We'll talk about what we're picking up for it.
So you get corn, you get some pepper, a little caramel, and there's a sense of maybe some dark fruits in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big floral and fruity taste in there. You got the rye spice from beginning to end. Fruit-wise, you're getting raspberries, getting a little cherry in there, getting some apricot. It's really nice.
Yeah, you get sort of a balance. There's not really an overwhelming part of the taste palette. There's a number of different things that are sort of interacting together.
Certainly, that one 18-year-old recipe brings out the oak, but those 13-year-olds bring it back down. So it's fairly balanced. There's a lot of subtle flavors going on. Dare I say, too many flavors?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things going on there. There's not some other bourbons we've had. It's been more clear on exactly the dominant flavors. Or there's just a lot that they're sort of all together, none are really standing out.
Yeah, not very bold flavors from this this bottle here.
So then the last thing we'd talk about maybe the finish here.
Yeah, sure.
On the bourbon.
Its finish is certainly shorter than we would hope for.
Yeah, it's sort of you get it on your tongue, and then that's sort of it. There's not a long finish. There's no warming sensation in you.
Yeah,
it's almost like it stops short of the finish. It's just sort of truncated.
Yeah, it's a little short. Some cinnamon lingers. The floral fruity notes are still there, but certainly shorter than we would hope for.
Yeah, so and there's one other thing to note with this. This is, as we said, a limited edition bottling. This year they made 12,468 bottles. About half of that was available domestically here in the U.S. and we're bottle 432. So just something to note. It's always interesting, I think, when you get the limited edition and they number them, so you can sort of tell where you are with that.
So let's talk about rating. It's a good bourbon. It's a great bourbon. I wouldn't say it's as good as the 2012 release, and I'd say it falls a little short of expectations. It's extremely hard to get this year. We're so happy to get our hands on one, and we had it, tasted it, and we've been tasting it for a while, and just not as good as we were hoping it would be. Still a great bourbon though. Yeah,
I think, like you said, the 2012 release, it was really critically acclaimed. A lot of top people in the bourbon industry gave it, Bourbon of the Year type awards,
right.
And the expectation, I think, was similar. I know it's a slightly different recipe from last year. Like you said, very enjoyable. Maybe just
probably
a hair short of expectations.
Probably just too many things going on. I know we like the high alcohol, we like the bold flavors. Just has too many subtle things in the background. Too many things you can't put your finger on.
So I think for me, I would give it probably an 8.5 out of 10. So 8.5 out of 10.
I'd probably give this a little higher, probably an 8.8 out of 10. So, thank you again for watching our episode of the Bourbon Brothers. You can find us on Twitter at Blunden_Bourbon, or find us at our blog at blundenbourbonreview.blogspot.com.